and say good afternoon to everyone and thank you for joining. Appreciate you being on today for our community of practice for the Project E3 Leadership Academy. I know that we're in a no cost extension, and so I really appreciate those of you who had an opportunity to join and be with us today. It's not our typical third Thursday that we are meeting today, but it is the fourth. So I apologize for getting off calendar for that. Next month, we will be back on schedule for our April, I think that's the 15th, regular monthly meeting. And we'll be focusing on business and employment for individuals with disabilities. Today, we have a great presentation lined up for you. Ms. Veronica Jackson, consultant with UA Currents, will be presenting on the topic of civility. And she does this presentation as a part of our three-part series on awareness, bias, and civility for VR professionals. So we're excited to have her here. But before we go to her, I'm going to ask you if you would take a moment to unmute yourselves and to introduce yourselves. Since we have a small crowd today, we'll just let you unmute and tell us who you are and tell us the state that you're representing.
Hello, my name is Ismael De Leon. I am a student services counselor for Department of Rehabilitation in California, Bakersfield office.
Good to
Hi,
have
I'm Amory. I'm also in California with the Department of Rehabilitation. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
I'm Peggy Hale. I work with Currents. I'm in Northwest Arkansas.
Thanks for being on, Peggy.
I'm Nancy. I'm a vocational rehabilitation counselor in Kentucky.
Hi, Nancy.
Hello.
I'm Twyla Hammonds. I'm a vocational rehab counselor in Kentucky.
Hi, Twyla. Good to have y'all both. And Tony.
Good afternoon. I'm Tony Perry, VR manager in Kentucky.
All right. Kentucky's in the house. Good to have y'all. Let's see. We also have, who did I miss? Is that Deborah Pearson? Can't hear you, but we see you. So thank you for being on. And Ken York and Daphne Mitchell, did you all want to say anything?
Hello, this is Ken York. I'll just say good afternoon to everybody. I
Good to have you.
Connected with you guys in a long time.
Yeah, thanks for being on today.
Absolutely.
And this is Daphne Mitchell from New Mexico Commission for the Blind. I am our field operations manager here. So thanks.
Thank you, Daphne. Welcome in. I think Deborah has a microphone now. You'll have to unmute though. Can you, let me see. Let's see.
There I am.
There we go.
There you go. Hey, Miss Peg, and hey, Robin.
Hey,
Hey, everybody.
Good to have you.
Yes, good to be here. Thank you.
Cynthia, if you want to introduce yourself and tell us what state you're calling from.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm calling from California, Department of Rehabilitation. Nice to see everyone.
Thank you. Good to have you.
Thank you.
All right, and then Ashley Nobles and Glenda Sanders. Who wants to go first?
I'll go.
Hi, I'll go. Go ahead, Ashley.
Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Ashley Nobles. I am from Louisiana Rehabilitation Services in Louisiana, obviously, and I am a vocational rehab counselor.
Well, welcome. Thank you for being on today.
Thank you.
And hi, this is Glenda Sanders. I'm from the Illinois Division of Rehabilitation Services. I'm a VR counselor, but my focus is on the transition age students.
Great. Thank you, Glenda. Glad you're able to make it today. And we again say welcome to everyone and thank you for being on for our monthly community of practice. I would say that we expect that we'll have a meeting April and May and also June. We'll talk about June, July after Veronica's presentation. We are being asked if we would consider doing another mini conference, another convening. So I am looking to speak with you a little bit later about potential dates for that, what would work for you in June or July. But for now, let's talk about civility. And if you just look across the news or on social media, you know that there is a big lack of civility in our interactions among one another. So I'm excited to introduce to you Veronica Jackson. Many of you have met her before from our first Leadership Academy that we held in New Orleans, and excited to have her join us to talk about civility. She is a consultant, a trainer with UA Currents. Veronica, thank you.
Thanks, Robin. You did have one more person join. Do you want them to?
Yeah, I think that's Lisa. Lisa, hello. We are introducing ourselves and telling where we are from.
Hi, I'm Lisa Fiore, and I am with Jesby House in South Orange, New Jersey.
Thank you for being on, Lisa.
All right, so let me get my presentation shared. Can everyone see that okay? Okay. Well, thank you for having me, Robin. I'm excited to talk about civility. As Robin has already said, we are in a state of struggle when it comes to showing up with civility as a focus when we interact with one another. And so my hope is that I can share with you some ideas on how you can show up as your best self as you move forward after this training. Robin has already shared a little bit of my story. I am Veronica Jackson. I'm a training consultant for UA Currents. Robin has kept me around for a very long time, and I'm grateful for that. I have been with Currents since 2014. I'm also a certified life coach and business consultant, as well as a leadership trainer. And I'm really passionate about leadership development and helping others find their why. I am a why person. I ask all the questions. And for the longest, I thought that was a deficit. But what I've learned is that's a difference. That's the way in which I like to interpret the world. And I always want to make sure that I'm looking at the world from a lens that can help me to see the perspectives, thoughts, and feelings of others. So I have a desire to remain curious, to always be focused on what can I learn, how can I learn it, and then how can I apply it. So as we talk about a lens, I want to start this morning with a little bit of an icebreaker. I know most of you have your cameras off, so hopefully when we get to the end of this activity, you'll be open to turning it on and maybe showing the finished product of the work that you draw today. So for this activity, I need you to find something to write with, something to write on. If you are an artist and you have markers, crayons, paint, whatever you want to use, if you have that readily available to you, I need you to grab your tools because we're going to draw a picture together. Now, the way this is going to work is I am going to walk you through the steps of drawing a picture. And similar to the picture that's on the screen, we have a very blurry image, but there is one little circle where you can see very distinctly that this is probably New York City. The buildings are lit up, people are walking around. I want to get your interpretation of the instructions I give you to draw this picture, to see from your lens, from your perspective, from your seat, what picture you will draw. During this activity, you will not be able to ask questions, but to help us along, I do have the instructions so that we can go through those together, okay? Is everybody ready to draw? All right. So I'm gonna go step by step. There are 9 steps to drawing this picture. Step number 1, Draw a medium-sized circle in the middle of your paper. Step number 1, draw a medium-sized circle in the middle of your paper. Step number 2, draw a medium-sized square below the circle and have the top of it touch the bottom of the circle. Draw a medium-sized square below the circle and have the top of it touch the bottom of the circle. Step number 3, draw a medium-sized heart in the square. Draw a medium-sized heart in the square. Step number 4, draw 2 small rectangles, one on each side of the square. Draw 2 smaller rectangles, one on each side of the square. Step number 5, draw clusters of wavy lines above the circle, but have the wavy lines touch the circle. Step number 5, draw clusters of wavy lines above the circle, but have the wavy lines touch the circle. Step number 6, draw a medium-sized triangle above the circle, touching the wavy lines. Step number 6, draw a medium-sized triangle above the circle, touching the wavy lines. Step number 7, draw a small triangle in the center of the medium-sized circle. Step number 7, draw a small triangle in the center of the medium-sized circle. Step number 8, draw an arc which is curved up below the small triangle. Step number 8, draw an arc which is curved up below the small triangle. And step number 9, draw 2 small circles above the small triangle, one slightly to the right and one slightly to the left. Step number 9, draw 2 small circles above the small triangle, one slightly to the right and one slightly to the left. So I want you to take a moment and admire your work of art. And then I want to ask those of you who are willing to turn your cameras on, hold your picture up and share it with us so we can see what you drew today. Okay, I see Robin's. Oh, okay. Some of the wavy lines are under the triangle, some are going through the triangle. So if I asked you in the chat to type what your picture is, what would you say it is based on what you see in front of you?
A person.
A person, okay.
A happy person.
A happy person, not just a person, but a happy person.
That's right.
A robot.
A robot, okay.
I typed in the chat, but it only went to Robin. I said a scarecrow.
A scarecrow. Thank you. So what if I told you your picture should look like one of the pictures on the screen? The first one kind of looks like the Tin Man from the Wizard of Oz. The second one kind of looks like a kid at a birthday party. The third one is some form of abstract art. What if I said this is the standard? this is how your picture should look?
I did my arms different.
You did your arms different.
Yeah.
So what helped you to draw this picture?
Just knowing the shapes that you said and where to put them.
Knowing the shape, so having a frame of reference of
Mhm.
what shapes look like. What if you'd never seen a heart before? What would you have drawn? No, right? We don't know. What was challenging about drawing the picture?
The sizes.
The sizes. Say more about the sizes.
We started out with medium, but there was no way to know what's medium because there was nothing to compare it to.
So what did you do?
I drew it bigger than I probably should have.
Based on your interpretation of what medium was, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how often are we challenged with solving problems with very little information, but having to pull from the resources we have readily available to us? And then what if the person next to you doesn't have the same resources? How many of you read the instructions and went along without waiting on me to read them? Yeah, I know Robin did. Of course you did. So what advantage did that give you if you were able to read the instructions and go along and draw the picture without having to wait on me?
I mean,
How
it's
far did-
okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say it's okay, but sometimes I miss things when I read. I read quickly and I don't get all the details. But then when I hear it, I'm like, oh, well, let me fix that.
So thinking about this from how we interact with one another, how we show up in the world, what resources do we use to dictate how we show up in the world? What affects how we see the world? Is it not the same? The foundation of our frame of reference, the historical evidence that we have about how the world looks, how the world treats us. So if we're thinking about the fact that there's 15 of us participating today and everybody's picture look different. What does that mean about how we see the world? We could all look at the same picture and interpret something totally different because we are all pulling from different resources, right? We're all using different tools. And that's the foundation that will help us to understand why civility is important. So I believe all of your pictures are beautiful because you use the tools and resources available to you. And that's the same way I look at the world. I believe we are all beautiful because we're using what we have readily available to us to navigate the world around us. So that's the goal of our training, to answer the question, why civility? Why is civility important? To discuss the civility crisis, to set the stage for defining civility, because we'll all have our own definition of what we believe civility to be. And then I want to end by promoting civility, compassion, and courage, because that's really what's going to lead us forward. So, well, there's 15 of us, so you can always just answer out loud. How do you define civility? What does the word civility mean to you? Whether you want to share in the chat or whether you want to unmute yourself and share out loud, we want to know, how do you define civility?
I would define it as being presenting yourself as approachable, open to people. That's the way I see it.
Thank you, Peggy. Presenting yourself as being approachable.
This is Daphne. And when I think about civility, I think about being open to hearing others' perspectives. And if you hear something that doesn't necessarily coincide with how you feel about a topic, that you listen with respect, and, you know, are just generally courteous in exchanges. So.
Thank you, Daphne. So being open and listening with respect. Anyone else?
This is Kent. When I think about civility, I tend to sort of think about actions, words, behaviors that sort of respect others, that where you consider the interests of others.
Respect others and consider the interest of others. Thank you, Ken. And those are all great. Oftentimes when I ask this question, people say that civility to them is treating others as you like to be treated. And that's what we all grew up with. We're the golden rule, treat others as you want to be treated. And I've tried to show up that way. But what I am reminded of is that how I want to be treated and how the next person wants to be treated might not be the same. I always share that Robin is a morning person. She's cheery at 5 a.m. She's ready to work at 5 a.m. I am not that person. My day kind of starts like in my mind at 10 a.m. And so how Robin would want to be treated versus being ready to work at 5 a.m., 6 a.m., that wouldn't work for me. That's not how I want to be treated. If you come and try to talk to me at 5 a.m. about work, you're probably not going to get that much information because those are not my best hours. So we have to move past treating others how we want to be treated and think about how they want to be treated. What's their love language? What works for them? I am a homebody. My husband is not a homebody. What works for him and what works for me are different. So the idea that I treat him the way that I want to be treated doesn't always work. And that's what civility teaches us. Civility teaches us to really step outside of who we are for the sake of understanding who someone else is so that we can connect and have meaningful relationships, right? So here are some of my favorite definitions of civility. The first one's pretty simple. It says formal politeness and courtesy in behavior or speech. Formal politeness and courtesy in behavior or speech. That's a simple one. Shelby has my second favorite, noticing the needs of others without the need to be noticed. Noticing the needs of others without the need to be noticed. That's compassion in a nutshell. That means that I am putting myself back to seek and understand what you need first. And if I'm seeking to understand what you need and you're seeking to understand what I need, then we are both taken care of, right? We both win. And the last one says, claiming and caring for one's identity, needs, and beliefs without degrading someone else's in the process. Claiming and caring for one's identity, needs, and beliefs without degrading someone's in the process. I think what Daphne said was pretty similar to this definition. It's really about being able to show up as my full, authentic self and allowing you to show up as your full, authentic self and accepting that we might not be the same, but we can still have conversations without disrespecting or degrading one another. So the picture on the screen, you have two lines. It looks very similar to a lemonade stand. One of the stands is serving fresh squeezed Discord. The stand that's serving fresh squeezed Discord, you have a gentleman sitting back with his legs propped up. He has a big bag of money. Whatever is in his jar or his pitcher does not look that appetizing because it is black. but yet everybody's in line, money out, ready to pay. Meanwhile, you have a line that says refreshing civility. What's in that picture looks much like lemonade. That looks like what I would want to buy. However, everybody is attracted to the fresh squeezed discord line. Why is that? Why is civility in great demand but short supply? Why does that lemonade look so much better than the fresh squeezed discord, but yet everybody's in line for it? Why is everybody in line for discord? Why is it so attractive? Anybody have any thoughts?
Misery loves company.
Misery loves company. That's a good one.
I don't know why, but I know we're all attracted to it. Like on Facebook, you can post something and you get a lot of discord, but you don't get a lot of people coming to you and saying, "Yay, that's good," or "Great, Peggy, I agree with you." I don't know why. When I know there's a lot of my friends that would probably agree, but there's a lot of discord if you say one word. People like that, and I try to stay out of that, but I'm not very good at that. Sometimes I will admit I am drawn to the discord myself. I don't know why. It's not a good way of connecting, I'll admit, but it is a connection. Maybe everybody's looking for a connection, and I don't know why we go the discord way instead. There's anger there, isn't there? Why are we all angry? I don't know.
Yeah, so we're craving connection, and the negative connection is easier than the positive one.
Maybe. What do y'all think?
Well, I believe it's contagious. I believe there's something about the negative behavior, the negative conversations that draws people, similar to the line, similar to the picture on the screen. It draws people there. Something about the drama of it all makes people want to get on board. Any more thoughts about that?
I just have to make one other comment, Veronica. I have a granddaughter that's 19 and she's autistic, and she loves to watch videos on her phone, and it's people raving about this or that. I don't know why she likes to do that. I've asked her, and she says, well, she tells me what they're upset about. I don't know why that draws her in, but I think there's a lot of that going on in our world. I would love to hear somebody else's take on that, because I don't know. I just observe it.
Thank you for sharing, Peggy.
I honestly think it's a lot of outrage culture that's being promoted, and like a lot of social media with the algorithms that designed to create more of your eye attention, and like people, I don't want to say like or are attracted to drama or just a active emotional behavior of other people because it just catches people's eyes. And like a lot of social media knows that, so they create algorithms that just creates and promotes and excels and just adds more flames to that, which just adds more views and more outrage and more demand, and young people see that, and I think they see that it's the best way for them to get more views or more likes or for their videos to be shared is just to create that discord, create that drama, no matter what it is, as long as they develop more followers or more outrage for what they want.
Oh, that's a great perspective. So social media is almost feeding it to us and therefore making us want it even more.
They line us up in that discord line, don't they? Thank you, Ishmael. That helps a lot.
Yeah, that's a great perspective. Well, we know that social media plays a big role in our everyday life. If you've ever looked at your phone and taken in account how much you stay on social media, most of us probably stay on there longer than we really think we do, right? So if social media plays a big role in it and that uncivil behavior is all over social media, what is that doing to us? Does our body really know that we're not really at war with somebody? Does our heart rate not speed up the same way when we're reading this negative behavior? Do we not get angry reading the comments of someone else as if we're in that position? So, what is that doing to us overall? How is that making us feel on a daily basis?
Giving us high blood pressure, isn't it?
Giving us high blood pressure, right? Well, the great thing about the rehabilitation services or being a rehabilitation counselor is the fact that you have the code of ethics that tells you how you should show up, how you should demonstrate civility in the workplace and with the individuals that you serve. Section E says rehabilitation counselors recognize the quality of interactions with colleagues can influence the quality of services provided to clients. Simply put, we know that if we work better together, the clients that we serve are better served, right? Section E1A says rehabilitation counselors are respectful of the approaches that may differ from their own. That's telling you to lean into the differences of others because it will make everyone better. And then section E2A says rehabilitation counselors must participate in and contribute to decisions that affect the well-being of clients by drawing on perspectives, values, and experiences of their profession and those of colleagues from other disciplines. Yet again, it's telling you you need to lean into the differences of others, lean into the different perspectives, values, and experiences. And so ultimately, you have a whole book of code that tells you if you're struggling with being civil in the workplace, with serving the clients that you serve in a civil manner, look to the code. The answer's all there. And just imagine a world where we had a code of ethics for how we showed up and how to be civil in a way that made everyone feel good about themselves, made everybody feel seen, heard, and valued so that they could show up as their most authentic self. So let's talk about a civility crisis at home. We've already talked a little bit about social media. And if you're anything like me, there probably was a time where you went through your social media account and deleted people and blocked people based on some of the things they posted or their opinions, because we know that social media makes it easier for us to hear the negative thoughts and feelings of others. The culture has become plagued with uncivil behavior. The internet is a modern day playground for bullies. I couldn't imagine having social media in this capacity when I was in high school and middle school, because everything is played out right there for you to see. And so how does that affect your friendships? How does it affect how you show up at family gatherings? What's different now? Well, if your aunt posted something that was rude or disrespectful and you've been carrying it since the last time you read it and you see them at a family function, it's probably still going to be at the front of your mind. So how do we fix that? How do we move past it? In the same way, the civility crisis at work. The picture on the screen has a lot of folders stacked up, multicolored. I would not want this on my desk. But we know that performance and productivity at work is affected by uncivil behavior because no one wants to go to a workplace where they're not happy. No one wants to be around people where they're always feeling like they're walking on eggshells or they're uncomfortable in the work environment. And the recruitment and retention of high quality employees is decreasing in some industries due to the lack of civility, because we don't want to spend our day in places where we're unhappy, where we don't feel seen and heard and valued, where we're not sure how things are going to be in the work environment when we walk in based on someone treating us a way that was unkind during our last interaction. And I know we are mostly virtual, excuse me, during this time frame, but some of the same behavior is still played out virtually, because when you see people and they respond to you in a certain way, it leaves you feeling a certain way. It takes five positive interactions with someone to cancel out one negative interaction. So if you've had one negative interaction with a coworker and you only see them from time to time on Zoom over the span of a month, that one interaction is still fizzling inside of them. It's still bothering them. So how do you get those 5 in just in case a -1 happens? How do you shift that? How do you do that better? Any thoughts on that?
Can you state the question again?
Yeah, I was just about to ask that too.
Oh, I'm sorry. My question was, if every one negative interaction takes 5 positive interactions to balance out, how do you be how do you ensure that you have those positive 5 interactions in case a negative interaction happens? How do you influence those 5 opportunities to connect positively? How do you make those happen in case a -1 happens over the span of your relationship with a person? Does that make sense? I'm not sure I made it better.
I think personally, I like to approach things positively, regardless of having a negative reaction with someone. Just like, over the years of working with people, you're not always going to get along with everyone, and you're going to have your issues at some point. But you have to kind of get past that to be able to work together and move forward. So pretty much just not dwelling on the negative. And if it is something enough to affect like a relationship or a work environment or something like that, like you just have to address it and figure out how to get past it, or like what you can change to just like kind of deal with it.
Thank you, Ashley. So you start off with the positive, and if something negative happens, then you address it as soon as it happens. You don't allow it to linger or fester.
Yes, pretty much, because it's not gonna, things don't always get better on its own. I mean, sure, some things do over time, but if you're talking about with a person, like if it's negative for you, it's probably negative for them. So something has to happen. People, not everyone forgives and forgets.
That's true. Not everyone forgives and forgets. Anybody else have thoughts about that?
Me personally, at work, I try to just be positive. If there's anybody that is not as positive or is just bringing me down, I just try to keep myself away from it. And if I need to interact, I just keep it as professional and straight to the work assignment needs to be done. And that's it, since I don't need to be around negativity if I don't have to. And if it's clients, then I try to be professional with them and state the needs that they need and go directly to what they need in a positive format, just so they have a positive view of the experience, even if they're being negative.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so basically no negativity for you.
Correct. No negativity as much as I can.
As much as you can. Well, and the thing about Civility, there is a entire organization that focuses on civility and studying civility and looking at trends and how it affects the world around us. So this installment of the Civility Crisis in America is from 2019. I'm super excited about the one that will come out in 2021, simply because I'm wondering, how did life during the time of COVID affect how we showed up and how we interacted with one another in such a virtual world? One of the pieces of the study talks about how social media is perceived as the top source of incivility, and we've already talked about that. The study says 6 in 10 Americans believe that the civility crisis is, wait, I'm sorry, I read that wrong. Nearly 6 in 10 Americans who expect the level of civility in society to decline during the next few years cite social media as the leading reason for the erosion, the leading reason for why we have such uncivil behavior. They also say that we have 10.2 uncivil interactions per week, whether that's social media, whether that's in person, whether that's virtually. 10.2 uncivil interactions. That's 10 opportunities for someone to leave an imprint on you that affects your day, that affects how you show up at home, that affects how you show up in the workplace. That's a big deal. The top 10 factors on this list, social media being the highest, and then the White House. Some other notable pieces, though, are that American youth is at the bottom. Only 26% believe that the American youth are part of the problem. And that was pretty interesting to me. It gave me hope for a future where we are able to connect in meaningful ways without negative behavior and interactions. This next chart talks about civility in the workplace, and we know that civility pays. We know that if we keep employees happy, we keep them comfortable at work, we make them feel valued at work, they're more likely to show up, and not just show up, but be productive when they show up. The chart on the screen says 78% believe that job performance is affected by civility. 40% says it improves their morale. 40% says it makes you want to contribute to work. It leads to being more collaborative. 34% said that, of course, because if I am comfortable with you, if we can have meaningful conversations, then I'm more likely to want to connect with you in the workplace. So what is civility's way forward? Now that we know that social media plays a big role, that it's important for the workplace to feel like a safe place for people, how do we change uncivil behavior and attitudes and thinking? What resources are available to assist us in that change? And who is responsible for creating the change? Any ideas about those big 3 questions? How do we change it? What resources are available? And who is responsible for the change?
I think, or were those questions for everybody, or was it just that?
It was for everybody. Go ahead, I'm listening.
Oh, okay. Do you mind going back to the questions?
Come on.
Okay. For this first one, I think it's just the perspective of one individual speaking up and just sharing it to their friends and just continuing that pattern. And since that's the best way to just acknowledge it. And then if you acknowledge it, then people around you can build up the confidence of speaking up as well, since it just takes a consistent flow of just demanding a better behavior or calling out people that are being uncivil, just on that part. And then to assist the change is just try to not to sound like generic, but like kind of like a hashtag situation where like you try to promote that with your friends and coworkers, and just try to promote that civility even with people that are uncivil, as they do as I do, not as I say kind of situation, since that it shows civility with other people that are uncivil, that disagree with you. Just maintain that behavior or that character, so it just promotes it more. And the people that are responsible for this, it's individuals and social media mainly, because they're the ones that control the outlet, the communication of everybody.
Yes, that's a great point. I think Devin, is it Devin?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, you want to share?
I do. Sorry that I got into this meeting late. I had a conflicting meeting. I was sad that I was going to miss half of this, but I think just being an example of what good civil behavior is like really the core. I feel like if you yourself are living that way and you're showing that example to your coworkers, then they can see what that actually looks like and know how to, I don't know, become more of a more positive person in that environment. I also think being immediate, if you're comfortable enough being immediate with maybe coworkers, I feel like with me, I've built a strong enough rapport with my coworkers that I feel like if something's not feeling right, or if something's not sounding right, I have the ability to be like, is everything okay? Like, do you need to take a break, or do you need some additional support or additional assistance? So I think just being an example, and then also maybe having the courage or the ability to be immediate about it if you witness or see something that doesn't really align with civility.
That's all great. Being an example and being available, right? So you can come to me because I'm open to the conversation, open to correction.
I have one, and this one is for social media. I often want to share a different perspective with people that I don't agree with on social media, and I know that's not always, doesn't always go over well, even if I'm saying it nicely. And I usually say it nicely. And so I was just thinking about, how do I change it in social media? How do I promote civility on Facebook? So my takeaway would be, for me, if that was me and I was sharing a perspective that many people didn't agree with, for me, I think instead of just scrolling past and ignoring that, I'm thinking, well, maybe I'll start saying, dear so-and-so, thank you for sharing your perspective, and leave it at that. And don't offer my opinion, don't offer alternative view, just say, you know what, thank you, and leave it there.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Robin. That's a great point. Yeah, I had a situation yesterday where someone was sharing why they were antivirus. And I wanted to lean into the science and tell them everything I knew, but I asked why. Why do you feel that way? And they shared, and I said, well, do you mind if I share more? Asking for permission is my new thing. If they don't want to hear more, then I'm not going to share more, because then we'll just be frustrated, right? I'm trying to give them information that they're not open to. They've already frozen in their opinion about something. But if they're open to it, then maybe I can insert some information from my perspective that will give them a different perspective. But asking for permission is one of my go-tos. When I'm unsure about how the person's going to respond, just simply ask if you'd like to hear more. If not, well, that's a great perspective. I've never heard it from that perspective. Thank you for sharing, similar to what you said. So thank you for those.
Yeah, I do agree with that wholeheartedly, just because you never know why someone believes the things that they believe in. You don't know what they grew up with, what their religion might be, and all that stuff. And you can't expect someone to think the same way you do.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you should always ask for permission. I mean, yeah, I disagree with that for sure.
Yeah. Thank you, Ashley. Yeah, we are the same kind of different in that we are all different. We all have different tools and resources. And so one of the ways to move civility forward is to create a new context and change the narrative. It's simple. We should not fear attention. We should fear its absence, right? So being nice and being kind are not the same thing. One of my teacher friends talks about how everybody says that there's a teacher next to him that is so nice. She lets us get away with anything we want to get away with. She lets us eat in class. She lets us take our mask off. And he says, well, I don't have a desire to be nice to you. I have a desire to be kind, which means that I see you. I am open to correcting you, but correcting you in love because I care. And he shared that with me, about a week ago. And I think it stuck with me because we often think that being nice is the way. But oftentimes when we're nice, that means that we are not showing up as our authentic self. So how can I show up as my authentic self and really have meaningful conversations, but also be mindful of the fact that you have your own beliefs. You have your own foundation that you're coming to the conversation with. So the civility defined, claiming and caring for one's identities, needs, and beliefs without degrading someone else's in the process. That's part of civility's way forward. And the resources, we are the resource. All of us here today are part of the resource because we have valuable insight. We have valuable conversations that we can have, which I call courageous conversations. Courageous conversations deals with our fears, our egos, our discomforts, expectations, and our emotions. We know that we come into this space that we're in today with different tools available to us. And so taking into account that we are all different, as Ashley already said, means that we can be a great resource to one another when thinking through how we show up. We can't challenge the assumptions and beliefs of others unless we're willing to hear them. We can't change what we're not open to understanding. And then lastly, we create the change. We create the change. Every interaction where we're willing to have these types of uncomfortable, sometimes uncomfortable conversations is how we create the change. Are you the superhero or the villain in the person's story next to you? Are you helping them to be the superhero in their own story? How do you leave people feeling? Do they dread answering the phone when you call, or are they excited about seeing your number pop up? All those are things to think about because they probably paint a picture of whether you're showing up in a civil way or an uncivil way. And somebody said it earlier, compassion for others helps us model civility. So if we're showing up modeling civility, if someone is screaming and cursing at you and you show up as your calmest, most together self, it's probably going to make them check their behavior. And civility defined said noticing the needs of others without the need to be noticed. Sometimes we have to step back and put our needs to the side and see what's happening with the person next to us, because people who are in pain are not happy. So if the other person is in pain, if we are willing to step back and acknowledge their pain, maybe we can both move forward. So Shelby's definition is one of the definitions I shared earlier. She has a TED Talk all about civility. And one of the pieces that she talks about during the TED Talk is really just those niceties, those everyday things we do. As Ashley said, she tries to show up positive every day. So if you're showing up positive every day, you're holding the door open for somebody, you're making a cup of coffee, well, pre-COVID, cup of coffee for your coworker. If you're doing these niceties every day, then those deposits mean something. She talks about civility as being similar to quilting. I've never quilted. I don't know much about it, but she shares a story about the patchwork pieces and how they represent our society. The patchwork pieces represent our society. The stitches of our society are those niceties, those conversations, those handshakes, that rapport that we build with one another. If we don't practice the niceties, then the very quilting that you see before you, the very patches that you see before you, the very stitches that you see before you could all fall apart. We have to make sure that the seams are sewn tightly together and that we're willing to look for any holes and patch them up before it all falls apart. And the way we do that is we stay curious. Ask why. It's okay to ask why if you don't understand. Practice compassion, which is noticing the needs of others without the need to be noticed. And then having that courageous conversation, being willing to bring the difficult combos to the table. So in reflection, awareness plus choice equals new behavior. But you can't have new behavior without being aware of your actions. And then it starts and ends with us. We're our best resource. We must learn to disagree without disrespect. And then people aren't nice when they're in pain, because we all suffer, but we suffer differently. And that compassion that we talked about, it helps us see past our own struggles and notice the person's struggle next to us. Again, noticing the needs of others without the need to be noticed. So my hope is you'll think a little bit deeper about civility. Think about how you would explain why civility is important to your coworkers, to your peers, to others in your life. Think about how you practice civility every time you show up in a new place or space. And then are there any takeaways that you'd like to share very briefly, because we are very close to the end of time? Well, okay, I see something in the chat, I think.
It's just such a great little hour to spend and think about just something as simple as civility, seriously. With social media and everything, just the amount of, well, I'll say it, hate. We just got to get rid of the hate, and I think we'd be so happy.
I think I heard part of that. You said we have to get rid of the hate.
Yes, and I think the civility would follow. There's just a lot that we hear and see that we probably don't realize how much it's going into our psyche without even realizing it. That's all I have to say about that.
Thank you for sharing. All right, well, thank you, Robin. I'm sorry I went over a little bit, but thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Veronica. We really appreciate you and sharing on civility. Any follow-up questions or thoughts that anyone has before we leave for today? I know it's getting to the end of our time, so I won't hold you past our hour meeting time. We are looking at having a convening in June or July. So I think it'd be best if I just email everybody and get your input on what dates would work best for you. I was just checking my calendar. So it would be maybe June, early June, around the 1st, 2nd, or 3rd, or the end of June, the 28th, 29th, 30th, and then maybe July. So that would be like July 6th, 7th, 8th. I know that's after July 4th, and then the 20th through the 22nd are potential dates. So would be 1 to 3 days of just Zoom meetings, no more than a couple of hours each day. And then, so I'll email that, follow up with you to get input from you on what you would like to see, if you would like to see that and participate. And we've talked previously about some of the things you're looking for. So I would like to connect with you and talk with you and get your input on putting something that will be of good resource to you for our Project E3 Leadership Academy 3.0. So any other final thoughts? Thank you all so much for your comments. Thank you, Veronica. Final thoughts?
Yeah, I look forward to joining the others.
Thank you, Ashley. It's good
Thank
to have you on. Appreciate you all for being with us today. Our next meeting is coming up on April 15th. We'll be talking about employment as well as entrepreneurship and financing. I have a presenter lined up for that. So we're looking forward to having that discussion about employment, entrepreneurship, small business development for people with disabilities. Thank you again and have a great rest of your week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.